All right. Welcome, everyone, to the All About Nothing podcast kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber, host of the All About Nothing podcast. You can find me across all social media at Barrett Gruber. With me is Brock, who is here as an interim sort of guest host for me for a good while. And I appreciate you being here on a Wednesday, eating your blackberries.
Yeah, I think I just ate a piece of fuzz. It wasn't very good. Huh. Yeah. Well, keep at it.
If you want to participate in the show, you can chat with us on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. You can find links at the top of our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. Please follow, subscribe, wherever it is you're listening to us. Let's get into it. We'll start off with the World Cup. You and I both picked the teams that we thought would make it. I didn't pick Spain, but you did pick France, right? And
yeah,
I didn't pick England and did pick Argentina. And the end result is Argentina is gonna meet with Spain in the World Cup on, what is it, Sunday? Is that when it happens? All goes down.
Yeah.
Is that enough time to rest up from what is basically an endurance test for 90? I mean, even today's Argentina game went for like 11 minutes past 90 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, but don't be deceived. They throw in a 3 or 4 minute hydration break in there, which in my opinion is nothing more than a money grab so that they can have a sponsor for the hydration break and show a few more commercials on the side while they do a live look in of the players drinking out of their water bottles.
That's fair.
And it's even more interesting because the two semifinal matches were in Dallas, which is an indoor enclosed stadium with a retractable roof, which wasn't closed, and Atlanta, which I didn't realize till the other day, actually has a retractable roof, but it was also closed and a nice cool 72 degrees inside.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly like these guys are running around in 100 to 105 heat index playing soccer. Now, they're running 5-6 miles or whatever, but they train for this. This is, I equate the World Cup to kind of the triple crown of soccer, right? It is an endurance race over, 6 to 8 weeks or ever how long it is. And as we've seen in this particular tournament, the two best teams by FIFA rankings are in the finals. So it's kind of turned out maybe like it was supposed to. But I'll say this again: if you were here Monday, you did hear me pick France over Spain. Crashed out there. I did pick England over Argentina. Crashed out again. I got the third place game right, so at least I'm going there. I'm 2-0 there. So, but talking about the final, because no one's going to care about the third place game. Right? They don't care about who wins the bronze at the end of the day, and I think it depends on what team shows up. Argentina's clearly shown everybody that they're a true second half team, if not second half, last 20 minutes. They did it to Egypt. They did it to Cape Verde, the Green Cape. I like kind of say that. I like Puerto Rico's Rico's Port. Today, and England jumped out 1-0, and then Argentina just stormed back and scored 2 goals in like 6 minutes in the 84th minute, and then again in the 91st, something like that. I mean, It was just, they just shell shocked him, and then that was the end of that. So, I don't know if Spain jumps out. If Spain jumps out to a lead, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. I'll be watching.
It was fun to watch. I think one of the things that the commentators said was, if you've got skin in this game and you're an English fan, then you're not real happy. If you don't have any skin in the game, this was an epic game to watch. It was very entertaining. Like you said, in Argentina, basically just kind of, in my opinion, they did what a good team does, and over the course of 80 minutes or so, just let England run themselves into the ground and wear themselves out. And then they came on strong. I mean, they show this histograph or whatever of the teams having I guess the ball the most during specific points of the game, and the second, the end of the second half, basically Argentina just controlled the ball almost the whole time, and the end result is they scored the way that they had to. It was fun to watch. So I look forward to the game Sunday and watching. And I think I picked Argentina to win it out. So I guess ultimately I mean, I don't have any money on it, so it doesn't really make that big a difference, but it's still fun to watch. I did not watch the All-Star game last night, so.
No, neither did I. The All-Star baseball game just doesn't. Well, I think it was on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, and that's automatically going to disqualify. Maybe it wasn't on Netflix. Maybe it was on linear TV. I don't know, but the All-Star game has kind of, in my opinion, lost its luster. It's kind of going the way of other professional sports All-Star games, like the Pro Bowl, which is now a flag football game. And I can tell you, no one cares about the Pro Bowl. The NBA All-Star game is just, if you're an NBA fan, that's fine and all, but it's just a collection to get to see all the All-Stars kind of in one place. And that's great and all, but it doesn't mean anything. But the one sport that's kind of embraced the midseason classic is hockey. And this year we had the Olympics. The year before we had the Four Nations. And so they're really starting to kind of ramp up what they're doing in the NHL. And it's the All-Star game or All-Star type festivities they're just exciting. I mean, the hockey this year with the Olympics was just incredible, especially with the Americans winning gold against Canada, both men and women. It was just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and
especially the way they did it. The way they did it with golden goals and overtime. I mean, it was just, Jack Hughes will never buy another beer in this country. Any bar he walks into, everybody buys him a beer.
I was say your Carolina Hurricane won the Stanley Cup this year. That had to have been exciting.
It would have been a little more exciting if I had decided to actually take the trip to Vegas and go, which I gave it a lot of thought. If the plane tickets hadn't been so much, I would have flown out there for Game 6. But of course, if I had gone, they would have lost. So by not going, it ensures that they win.
Are you a superstitious person?
I mean, not really, but I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of superstition, just like everybody has their own sort of conspiracy theories that, they think that, there is probably maybe some element of truth to this, or there could be some element of truth. I heard a conspiracy theory today that Lindsey Graham actually didn't die on Saturday, that he died on Friday, and that, so they were just holding out also till over the weekend or something, or maybe he got poisoned or something, and the medicine they gave him elevated his blood pressure. That's what made his heart it doesn't explode, but I mean it gave up, came apart in some areas, and so it just gives up. But I mean, there are drugs apparently out there that you can be given, I wouldn't say take, and that happens. So of course, there's going to be all sorts of questions surrounding what happened. Did they get him into Ukraine? I mean, who knows? But it's fun to listen to them, even when they're complete hogwash.
Yeah, I do enjoy a good conspiracy theory. Just to, as absurd as a lot of them are. I think one of the big ones over the weekend was this Mitch McConnell photo faux pas or whatever. They basically said that this photo is. There are a bunch of people out there, including some right-wing people, that seem to think that this photo of Mitch McConnell and his wife in the hospital during his recovery was a fake. I read an article that one of these guys that actually instructs and teaches people how to recognize how AI creates photos and generates this data and the pixels and everything like that. He said he looked at it and he ran it through his own software to see, and it came up as being original. That he also did almost a pixel by pixel look at it and confirmed that, one of the things that generative AI can't do is recognize two different light sources and have them combine correctly. In this photo, it does. So, I think it's a shame that Mitch McConnell's office was not really very forthcoming about his condition. They certainly didn't tell us initially that he had been put in the hospital. Didn't hear anything from him for 2 weeks or so, until finally it came out that he was in the hospital. And then the rumors started to mix around about, he was unconscious and that he was unresponsive, then he was brain dead and all these other things. And, and let's be honest, Mitch McConnell's had so many loading, buffering moments that I think it was entirely conceivable to think that Mitch McConnell had probably passed away, whether it was a coronary event or he had fallen down and hit his head or had a stroke again. You know, every time he's done this buffering thing, I think it's pretty much been small strokes, but his office won't acknowledge the office of the senator won't acknowledge that he is having health issues, and it's to be expected. He's like 84 years old or however old he is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it can be forgiven, but then you have to question, why are we continuing to allow for this geriatric leadership to, you know, why do we keep voting in these geriatrics? Like, why do we keep doing it? Even Lindsey Graham, 72 years old or 74 years old, however old he was, it just feels like we have to stop electing them. If, you know, President Trump is 80 years old this year, and he is the first president in history to reach the age of 80 this early in his term. Biden was elected older. He wasn't elected older. He's older than Trump. But Biden didn't hit 80 until further into his term. I don't know. It's just one of those things that bothers me. I certainly see the experience. I recognize that there is value to a number of these individuals, but I think it ultimately just comes down to pride and ego, and they just don't want to give up their power. They'd rather die in office and create what Lindsey Graham has created now.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the way the Senate works with seniority is the longer you're there, the more senior member you become, the better chance that you are to get placed on favorable committees. And, you know, you can be on the Judiciary Committee, or you can be on Finance Committee, or, Armed Services, some of the more prestigious ones. And when you start getting on some of those, start getting some seniority in the Senate, and you get placed on these committees, or you chair these committees, then you actually have real power.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the people don't want to give it up. I'm sure there's a huge portion of that thought, that mindset, that they don't want to give up their power. But at the same time, now South Carolina will have the most junior member in the Senate now, because all the seniority that Graham accumulated, you go back to zero. It's like you reset. So, there is some advantage, and we talked about it last time, that, Lindsey Graham, love him or not, he did some really great things for South Carolina. He brought me into South Carolina. He assisted with bringing business into South Carolina. And you don't do that if you're a first-term senator. You got to get a little bit of clout and a little bit of experience under the belt before you can do that. So that's part of it.
Yeah. I think one of the big things that we're struggling with now is this whole primary to replace him on the Republican ticket.
It's going to be a mess.
I had a phone call today with the Lexington County Election Commission, and I will be operating as a rover for the 11th, which is of course going to be the initial primary, and then the likelihood is because I think we're going to see anywhere between 5 and 12 candidates throw their names into the hat. I did see where Nikki Haley said she has zero interest in being the senator from South Carolina. That was a comment that was made in a couple articles that I read. But Pamela Evitt, apparently, Nancy Mace is certainly weighing her options. We'll find out later this week who all the candidates are that have registered. But it's going to be a shit show. School's going to be in place. School will have started by that point, which means that schools cannot be used for the primaries. Here in Lexington, 26 out of 96 different precincts use schools. So those are having to either be combined with other precincts or moved some other location, which means that the offices around the state, the election offices around the state, are trying to find locations to hold these primaries. And it's going to wreak havoc. It's going to eat into the budget of the state of South Carolina that was unexpected. And I'm not saying Lindsey Graham's to blame, but maybe one less barbecue ribeye sandwich from McDonald's, just potentially. I don't know.
You think he was a fan of the McRib?
I imagine that there are plenty of jokes that can be told, and I am one to go there sooner than probably necessary, but maybe not today. Let me write them first. As soon as I write them, then I'll write the McRib jokes.
Fair enough.
So I told you earlier. I said that I thought that the House did pass this daylight savings time permanent thing. This was yesterday. So 308 vote to 117 to pass the Sunshine Protection Act. Why are we? It's saving things and protecting things. Why are we getting the names of these bills always to protect something or to save something? Protect freedom, protect elections, save, whatever. I'm dumbfounded by the naming of these different bills, but whatever. So they passed the Sunshine Protection Act, advancing legislation back over to President Trump that will allow states to make daylight savings time permanent. Now, I told you that the issue that I have with this is that come winter, the sun will not be rising until 8:30 in the morning here in Columbia, South Carolina. That to me frustrates me because my opinion is just go ahead and roll back again in October and then just leave it standard time for the remainder of time. I wanted to share with you a video of a doctor who actually weighed in on this. And when I initially started watching it, I wasn't quite sure that he was going to share the same opinion as me. But in the end, he did. So I'm thankful for that. I don't know how many people agree with me or don't agree with me. I think a lot of people think that it's not really that big a deal. But I did want to share this video real quick. I don't know. Here we go. Let me try.
Pediatric specialist. I'm going to explain to you why this is not necessarily a good idea from a medical standpoint.
I'm going to start it over so you can hear the audio.
I could hear the audio.
Oh, you could. But you can't hear it now. So let me do it again.
Folks, the U.S. House of Representatives passed by a wide margin to make daylight saving time permanent.
I can hear it now.
As a pediatric specialist, I'm going to explain to you why this is not necessarily a good idea from a medical standpoint. Daylight saving time is when most of the United States moves the clocks forward an hour in order to maintain more light during the day. But when you make it permanent and you don't switch back and forth, that means during the fall and winter, when we're in that permanent hour forward, there are many parts of the country that would see the sun rise much later in the morning. It could be as late as 8:39 or even 10 o'clock in some areas, depending on where the location is relative to your time zone. The United States already tried and failed at this experiment miserably in 1974. It was supposed to be a 2-year trial, but they ended up stopping it early because once the first winter hit, people were struggling to get to work and getting their kids to school safely, as it was very dark for most of the morning in many parts of the country. Permanent daylight saving time can have a significant impact on your circadian rhythm, your biological time clock that keeps you awake during the day and asleep at night. So when you normally wake up in the morning and that sunlight hits your eyes, the hormone melatonin decreases to increase your alertness. But if we shift the clock an hour later permanently, then for a good chunk of the year, you're going to wake up by an alarm clock. It's going to be dark for several hours, and then you're not going to feel as alert throughout the day, and it'll impact your overall sleep cycle. Now, I get it. Changing the clocks twice a year can have a significant impact on your health. I've talked about this in the past. There's higher rates of heart attacks, motor vehicle collisions, etc. But if we're going to make a permanent change, we should move the clock back to standard time because that's more closely aligned with our biological time clocks. It's evidence-based and endorsed by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Let me know what you think in the comment section.
So and I stumbled across that. I didn't go looking for it, because I know some people will say that I went looking for it. But I followed Dr. Rubin for at least a couple years now, and I agree. I think why not just make standard time? Like it's literally called standard time. How easy would it be?
Well, the first thing I thought when that video popped up on my screen was that you found Poindexter from Revenge of the Nerds.
You mean you don't want somebody wearing a bow tie as your personal allergist or doctor or whatever?
Well, he had the glasses on and the red kind of curly fro looking thing, and I'm like, okay, you got Poindexter here. I mean, what he says makes sense. I'm kind of in the group of people that probably just really don't care, and that I'll adjust. But it makes more sense if there are parts of the country where you're not going to get any sunlight till 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So,
yeah. I don't know. I think the other thing is one of the reasons I'm not a fan of daylight savings time is because I know it's 8:30 or whatever right now, but I normally go to bed at like 8:15, 8:30. And even now, the sun's up behind, not the sun, but it's dusk now. And by the time I fall asleep, it's still kind of light outside. So I prefer it get darker a little earlier just because it works better with the pattern that I've already set up. But, I'm one out of 346 million people. So I guess, my opinion is worth 1/346 millionth. I don't know. But
it's not very much.
I suspect this is going to pass. Trump has already said that he supports it, and that as soon as it comes across his desk, he will sign it. The Senate already actually had passed a similar bill a few years ago, but ultimately the House couldn't pass it, and that's where we're at. And really, it's up to the states to decide whether or not they follow daylight savings or the switching back and forth. This is just sort of the federal government sort of putting it out there and saying, hey, we're not going to force you to do anything. You have the availability now. States don't even have to change anything. They'll just recognize whatever it is, the zone that they're in. So I don't know. It's kind of, it's interesting that this is something that is, even though there were 100 nays, it's still fairly bipartisan. So I appreciate seeing bipartisan bills come out of the Congress.
Yeah, that's true. You said it gives does it give the states the option? So could North Carolina decide to stay on daylight and South Carolina could go to standard if we wanted to?
Their legislature would have to vote on it, but yeah, they could. I mean, that's why Indiana doesn't
Indiana
do
never
switches.
Changes their time. Yeah, exactly. So and I think there's another state. Isn't there one out west, like either Utah or Wyoming or something like that, where they don't change?
Parts of I think it's New Mexico, or it's parts of Arizona. I think it's parts of Arizona. So parts of Arizona don't change because the Navajo Nation and has this is one of those very unique things, but there is a highway that you can take through Arizona where you are driving in and out of different parts of the Navajo Nation, where the state of Arizona may not recognize the time change, but parts of the Navajo Nation do, or it's backwards from that. But as you're driving through on this highway, you're in and out of different parts of the Navajo Nation, and your time has to shift back and forth. If we switch to permanent daylight savings time, I think that also then aligns, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that actually aligns the Navajo Nation with the state of Arizona, so you no longer have that as an issue. Indiana will wind up falling in line, I think, ultimately with the central time zone, and they won't have to deal with, you're coming out of Ohio, you switch at points during the winter, you come out of, is it Ohio? I think it's Ohio. So you come out of Ohio into Indiana, and your time changes, but then you get into Illinois. And you're. So I think this corrects a lot of things, but at the same time, my preference would be standard time. But again, it doesn't really matter. I'll adjust. That's what we do.
You will. And so will the kids.
That's right.
You know what would be very interesting if we took a road trip to Arizona to ride through those different parts to see if our phones go back and forth in the time. Like,
agreed.
8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. That would be kind of fun to see it switching back and forth as you're riding down the highway.
Yeah.
You'd be so confused.
Yeah. Especially if your satellite radio controls your clock and it's having to switch back and forth. I don't know. Yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, did you hear about this testosterone testing for military service members? Well, then let me tell you about it.
A friend of mine sent me a text with a screenshot. I'm not going to say who, but the headline said, Pete Hegseth announces new required Pentagon testosterone tests, who it impacts. His response to this was he has to have the skinniest, tiniest pencil dick ever.
So yeah, absolutely. This is essentially what it is. Hegseth announced that the Pentagon will require annual testosterone deficiency screenings for active members of service, anyone over the age of 30. It's integrated to test into the existing periodic health assessment troops already complete every year. Research shows that decline in men's testosterone levels since 1990. Prompting Congress to include a measure in the fiscal year 2025 National Defense Bill requesting briefings on testosterone treatments and protocols, while special operations veterans identified low testosterone as a critical health issue. Implementation of this details remain pending as the Pentagon determines rollout timing across military branches. Through service members under 30, they will have the option to undergo voluntary screening. Now, if let's say we were in the military, you being just barely over 30 and me nearing 50. If our
but no.
If our testosterone was low, medical screening showed that our testosterone was low. We can have a choice as to whether or not we receive the treatment. It's not going to have any. The Pentagon's saying it's not going to have a negative impact on anybody's careers in the military if they choose not to take it. It's entirely their choice to receive testosterone replacement therapy, and they emphasize the program aims at restoring and optimizing your natural capabilities rather than artificial enhancement. My question is, this kind of goes along with the ban on anyone in the military with a beard. Like that was one of his big things. This time last year, he didn't want any fatties and he didn't want any beardos. I think that was the quote. Why is Pete Hegseth so obsessed with the physical nature, like the physical appearance of the military? I don't think there's anything. I guess you look at like the videos that come out of North Korea and you're looking at a bunch of twins. Like they all look exactly the same.
They look like
they all
clones.
have the same physical features. Yeah. It's Attack of the Clones is what it would be.
Yeah.
But it sometimes feels like Pete Hegseth is very much attracted to this idea of very manly looking men in his audience when he gives his speeches.
Well, maybe Pete Hegseth is the shareholder with Grindr. I don't know.
maybe he's responsible for the Grindr outages.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, so a hair over 30. If anything, I'm a hair over 45. And I can tell you that I can tell you from personal experience that as you get older, most males experience a drop in testosterone.
Yeah.
I think that's scientifically proven. And I don't, it just is what it is. It's what happens. Women experience the same thing, but not from a testosterone perspective. So I don't quite understand why they would want to test or make it a requirement that you have your testosterone checked for every year over 30. If you don't have to do anything about it. If they were requiring you to take, you can do it. You can get testosterone either through a shot or through a cream, and
yep.
And I don't. Other than going some sort of like steroid type route, I don't really know what the purpose would be and what purpose it would serve. If you're not losing the ability to do your job, because most soldiers that are fighting, they don't really fight with boots on the ground anymore. So as long as you can pilot a drone or pilot a plane or sail a sub or a ship, you're more than likely okay. And I don't think you have to have a tremendous amount of testosterone to operate your joystick like you're playing PlayStation, because I think that's how most drone operators do. And most people that are going to be in kind of high profile positions militarily, at least kind of the ones that go into combat, are probably in pretty good shape and all that stuff. And everybody under 30 ought to be in good shape anyways.
Yeah.
But
it does.
So I don't know. It just begs the question why, especially if there's if they say, and of course they're going to tell you, there's no downside to this. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
I think there have been studies that have indicated that using testosterone replacement therapies does cause issues. There are long-term issues. I'd have to look them up, but I remember reading some reports because I went through chemo and radiation therapy almost 15, 16, 17 years ago. And one of the things that came out of that was my testosterone levels dropped. And ultimately, there was talk of potentially doing testosterone replacement, but even my doctor was like, we can do it, but there are long-term effects from doing said treatments. And ultimately, I was absolutely much more comfortable with the idea of not doing it. And but again, I'd have to look it up to see exactly what it was that actually was the effect. Yeah. So it was, I do just find it weird, the priorities of Hegseth as being the Secretary of Defense. It feels like
Secretary of War. No, you gotta go Secretary of War.
Sorry, I did forget the Secretary of War.
Dumb.
I have to look it up. I remember. I can't remember when the United States had a War Department. I guess it was probably World War II, maybe into the Cold War some, but we did eventually switch to the Defense Department, and and ultimately that is clearly a change in what we want the world to see as us, not as aggressors or imperialists or whatever, but defense. We have a department to defend ourselves. That they strategize and make sure that the country is safe. And of course, it's the biggest budget, 1.6 trillion next year. It's insane.
Something like that.
Absolutely insane.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Give me 1%. You know what? Give me 0.5%. I think I could do good with 0.5% of the Pentagon's budget. I'd take it.
0.5%. I wonder what that would actually be. What that would come out to.
100 million. 150 million, maybe. I feel like that's close. I feel like that's close. If it's 10.5 million, I'm fine with that too. I could make that work. Hey, Soda City Comic Con coming up August 22nd, 23rd. SodaCityComicCon.com is where you're going to get tickets. I know you hinted that there was the potential that there was going to be another announcement, but I'm not going to peg you on that until you tell me that it's actually ready to be made.
Don't ever peg me, period. So I just did the math. $1 trillion, 0.5% of $1 trillion would be $5 billion.
You're right.
That puts you on the map.
Yeah.
We could get better equipment and better cameras on my end, so I don't lag and look like I'm all grainy, like one of those old Logitech cameras that you had the little tripod thing that you plugged in, and you would hope like hell the cord wouldn't pull it back and turn it up while you were talking.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm gonna buy us if I got $5 billion, I'm just gonna buy us a studio, and
exactly.
And then it'll be adjoined to the two of our houses so that we just come together for a half an hour every other day. And then, but I'm not going to force you to see me any other days. I promise.
I was going to say, you're giving me the Mr. Rogers treatment. Won't you be my neighbor?
That's fair. That's fair. I
Sorry,
don't know.
he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. He was absolutely. He was a nice guy.
I always thought I wish that Mr. Rogers was still around. I think one of the coolest things I ever saw was him defending the spending of
the budget for PBS,
tax money for PBS. Yeah, I always thought that was one of the coolest things to see.
He testified before a subcommittee. I think it was a subcommittee, and he went in there and basically. They were asking him to justify the appropriation or the appropriation for it, and he gave his spiel. And if anybody, you can go on YouTube and watch it. It's a very well known clip. And at the end, the senator I think it's a senator would be my guess. I forget who it was. He just looks at me and goes, "Well, I think you got your money," and everybody just clapped. I mean, what could you say? I mean, after he had given this lovely soliloquy about how the positive impacts of what they do, I mean, you just looked at him, you're just like, wow. Like if everybody could kind of approach the world's argue and try to debate, because I was listening to Jimmy Carr earlier, who is my all-time favorite comedian. And he said something along the lines of, people need to stop debating, because in a debate you try to win, that we should do more deliberating, coming together, addressing the problem, and then working together to solve the problem.
Agreed.
Not trying to one up and win in the grand scheme of things.
Agreed. I think that's a great takeaway deliberating is different from debating, because deliberating is really just trying to come up with a solution rather than making in debate your solution be the only out. So I agree. Yeah. I think it's So long
and
live.
Jimmy Carr also does a fantastic job of doing a lot of dick jokes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Was between some sage advice and jokes about penises, he is fantastic.
Carr will, absolutely. Carr will give this great observation of what's going on in the world, and he doesn't necessarily say this is how you can fix it or whatever. He just said it's just odd. We look at these things and we see that there are odd things about what's going on. And he goes, how about some dick jokes? Yep. I love Jimmy Carr. He's fantastic. All right. Well,
I do too.
I have used up plenty of your time, everyone else's time. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, you can follow me at Barrett Gruber across social media. Make sure to go to SodaCityComicCon.com, and you can find links to follow the con at on social media, Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. I am looking forward to the con coming up on August 22nd and 23rd at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. It is going to be a fantastic time. Again, shout out to your staff, because
they're pretty good.
I guess pre-con we set the bar a little lower, and then after the con we're just delighted at how high they flew. Right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to give them big heads, but they do a pretty good.
I have. They're similar to me. We all wear very large hats. That's a size joke.
Yeah, if their egos get too big, they'll ask for raises. So we can't have that.
That's fair. All right. Thanks for hitting that bell. If you want, you can give us a 5-star review, leave a comment. Until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and keep your hands to yourself.